the Philadelphia basketball team has lost 11 of the 13 games they had played to start the season. Now, I did not play in the NBA, and I just do the overnight show here, so what do I know? But where I come from, the old country, that is embarrassing. If you lose 11 of your first 13 games and you're plausibly trying to win, you've done something terribly wrong. You've done something horribly wrong. And that includes the other night in Miami. They had that South Beach flu. I used to fight Eddie about that. He was wrong, by the way. I'll point that out. The South Beach flu is real, so it's quite possible that the Sixers went out, enjoyed the nightlife there at the Fontainebleau and the other great locations in South Florida. Maybe they were out partying with Weed Man Hippie, and they lost. And that inspired a players-only meeting before December 1st. A players-only meeting. My favorite. So we are told from those who have their ear to the ground that injured star Tyrese called out the face of the Sixer franchise to his face, Joel Embiid. Now, according to the story, as we are told, Tyrese Maxey ripped Joel Embiid to his face for being a bad example. The supposed leader of the Sixers, Maxey, has a good relationship with Embiid. He called out his buddy there for regularly being late to practice and to other team functions. And he pointed out to Embiid that he better get his ass together there and set a better example as a supposed leader day in, day out. And he pointed out that timeliness, somewhat important. Timeliness is somewhat important. So let us discuss the question for the esteemed panel. This is a former MVP. They haven't added the MVP this year, so who knows who will win it this year. It's not going to be him. But a former MVP in pro basketball, Joel Embiid, publicly called out for his lack of punctuality with the 76ers. Give me your reaction. So I've got Middle Ages, Mayberry, and Honeydew. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make you a Hulkamaniac, is what we're going to make you. So, number one. Yeah. How's the process working out for you in Philly? How's that process? So, I have determined, after a minutes-long Maller investigation, the reason we are talking about this story and the reason the Sixers made sure this story got out, it was strategic. You know how I feel about closed-door meetings, players-only meetings. If you've heard this show at all over the years, I've been here a while now, they are done for the cameras. They're done for dopes like me that have microphones. They are done for optics. Players-only meetings are held to give the illusion that you care, to give the appearance that you're really trying to do something and change things around, whether that's spoken or not. And you never hear, ever, like the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'll give you an example. We'll talk about them more in a minute. Cavaliers got off to a 15-0 start. They lost to the Celtics on Tuesday night. Did you hear anyone say we had a players-only meeting on the Cavs because everything's going well, but we just wanted to have a players-only meeting? No, there's no need to meet. Right? Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid could have easily had a one-on-one private conversation. They could have had it at dinner at some fine restaurant when they were out on the road. They could have had it back in Philadelphia. But instead, if you believe the reporting, they had this conversation in front of the entire team. Not only that, but wait, there's more. As every great infomercial, late-night infomercial says, someone then conveniently leaks the story to Shams Charania to broadcast to the world. It's a classic move. It's happened many times in my career behind these microphones, and it actually goes back to the Middle Ages. It goes back to the Middle Ages. It's public shaming stalks. It is. It's degrading Embiid. You are airing dirty laundry outside because you want this to publicly embarrass Embiid, because you know Embiid is someone that consumes a lot of media. He's someone that is out there with what people are saying on social media for sure, whether it's old school media, who knows. But you're putting this out there, and you're using it as a container of caffeine. You're trying to wake up Joel Embiid from the malaise that he finds himself in. And I'm not sure about you. Maybe it's different for you, but I was always told when I was younger that just showing up. I hated school, and one of my problems with school is I didn't show up a lot. But once I figured that out, just show up. 90% of life is just showing up on time. That punctuality is your friend. It's not your enemy. And you'll often get the benefit of the doubt just by showing up. Now, page 2 here. The streets in Philadelphia are talking, and they're not spitting out cheesesteaks and tasty cakes. They say that there are no internal discussions at this moment in time regarding the future of head coach Nick Nurse or the president of basketball ops, Daryl Morey. So that's the reporting. So those are the reports. They said Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey are safe, the brains behind the worst team money can buy in basketball with the 76ers. Do you believe it? So that would be a no on this side of the microphone. I do not believe it. You are not in Mayberry. You are not in Mayberry. This is Dante's Inferno is what it is. Philadelphia is a sports town that I hold in high self-esteem. Now, high esteem, rather, because, listen, the Philadelphia sports scene, and I've had some arguments with people in Philadelphia, but I love the passion. Right? It's a very passionable place when it comes to sports. They hold people accountable. They're not just going to sit there on their hands and, la, 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 and accept a crap bag team. They're not going to do that. They did that for a while with Trust the Process, and they lost a lot of fans. Daryl Morey is never going to be criticized in the media because he is beloved by basketball scribes. He's the head nerd of the nerd revolution in the NBA. He has that big nerd conference every year in Boston, and he's the keynote speaker more times than not. So Daryl Morey is not going to be ripped by anybody who covers the NBA because he feeds them NBA news on a regular basis. But the foundation that Morey built, now he inherited some of it, but he made the tactical decisions here. It is built, this giant palace, on a pile of quicksand. The pillars of the 76ers franchise are two highly paid, aging, lazy, injury-prone veterans. Does that make any sense to anyone? You have Podcast P, Paul George, by George, who would rather be doing a podcast somewhere than playing. It's good to know that he continued on his rich tradition of being a lazy player in Philadelphia as he was with the Clippers. Then you have Joel Embiid. Now this season, let's take a look at Joel Embiid's season so far. This season, he has announced to the world that he is brittle, his body is falling apart, and despite signing up to a contract to be a professional athlete, his body is so broken down that he cannot play back-to-back games. Imagine telling your boss, I can't work back-to-back nights. Like if I went into my boss is here at Fox Sports Radio, and I said, listen, I did the show Monday, and I did it Tuesday. It's now Wednesday. I need a break. It's 3 nights in a row. It's a lot of talking. They would look at me, and they would kick me in the nuts, and that would be that. But also Joel Embiid, not in shape, right? That's part of the problem. He's not in shape. He also laid hands on a Philadelphia sports columnist. He was suspended by the NBA for that, getting physical. Now he's been publicly called out by a teammate. Things are going, other than that, things are going really well. Daryl Morey and Coach Nick Nurse are allowing Joel Embiid to be coddled. They are supporting the pampering of Joel Embiid. Is that a fact or not? I believe it is a fact. And if this continues and the team continues to stink out loud, the Turk will pay a visit to the 76ers, and one or both, either Daryl Morey, most likely Nick Nurse, will be out, and there will be a sacrifice, collateral damage, as a result of this season. Now, final point. As you know, I enjoy having on in the background, most nights just in the background, a game or two on, flipping around. Every night's a ball night. Every night's a ball night, right? You get the game on, and so I'm getting ready for the show, and I have a game on. Big game on Tuesday was the Celtics and the Cavaliers from Boston, so I had that game That game is the early game, and then the late window. I watched a little bit of the OKC San Antonio game. That bored me. And then I watched my Utah Jazz lose to that other team in LA, the little ugly brother there, the Clips. I forget their name. So I watched that. But in the Boston game, Jason Tatum had a team-high 33 points, halfway to 66, as the Celtics led by as many as 21 points. Cleveland came back. They scratched and clawed. They got back into the game. But in the end, the Celtics beat the Cavs 120-117 in a regular season game. It was a little more important than most regular season games because Cleveland got its first loss of the season after a 15-0 start. And here's the question. Now, they're 15-1 now. So why hasn't – and this is actually a question that was sent in by one of our listeners in Ohio. Why hasn't this Spider Mitchell perfect start been a bigger deal? Why wasn't this a bigger deal? 15-0, one of the all-time great starts to an NBA season, now 15-1. And one of our listeners in Ohio, and I'm sure there's others that feel this way, like, why wasn't this getting more attention? Why was this not getting more buzz, more of a spotlight on it? And my answer to that, it's like honeydew. It's the fruit is simply not in season. In the NBA, it's not. Now, the NBA season really doesn't begin until April. It used to be Christmas, but now it really doesn't begin until April. The players aren't interested most of the time. They're not engaged. And I will give Cleveland credit. They're taking these games seriously. They're playing with some enthusiasm, some energy, some effort that most teams do not present. However, the Cavs are lacking that panache. They are. And while Spider Mitchell is a star, Donovan Mitchell is not an A-list star. I'm surprised he's still in Cleveland because everything I had heard was he was trying to get out of Cleveland and end up with one of the teams in New York, the Nets or the Knickerbockers. It would appear the Nets are the team now because the Knicks are pretty loaded. But he is still in Cleveland. The team's playing very well. They remind me of a little bit better version of Atlanta years ago. Remember the Hawks? I forget how many years ago it was. I think it was probably within the last 10 years, but I forget exactly the year. But they had Al Horford. They had a bunch of B and C level players, and they had a great record. And this is back when LeBron was in Cleveland. But they had a great record, but you knew that it wasn't really sustainable, and they weren't likely going to win in the playoffs because they didn't have enough A-level players. They had a lot of Bs and a lot of Cs, and sure enough, that's what happened. One year they had 4 or 5 All-Stars, the Atlanta Hawks, and they won a bunch of games in the regular season, but you knew it wasn't really going to happen in the playoffs. And that's what I look at this Cleveland team, and I'm like, well, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same. Now, I will give them this. They did get the attention of the Celtics. I know it's that NBA Cuppity Cup or whatever it is. I don't know, it's some dubby thing. The NBA is desperately trying to get people to engage in. By the way, spoiler alert, it's not working. But Boston painted a masterpiece. The one thing that annoyed me, I was watching on TNT, and the guy doing the game, and he does a lot of baseball games. He's like a Milwaukee broadcaster. I forget the guy's name. He's very generic broadcaster guy. But he was doing the game with Stan Van Gundy, and he kept getting so amazed by the Celtics making 3-point shots. And I'm the opposite. Like, I'm amazed when the Celtics make a 2-point shot. Like, to me, them knocking down a bunch of 3-point shots is not interesting. That's all they do. It is pop a shot. It is like me when I go out to the arcade, right? When I go out to Dave and Buster's on the weekend and I'm playing the pop a shot, that is what the Celtics do. And it's just, I used to love 3-point shots. The NBA has made me dislike 3-point shots because that's all they do. It used to be rare and appropriate. Now it's rare and appropriate to not shoot a 3-point shot. And the ratings continue to show that the public is not interested in what they're throwing out there. And I don't think it's so much the way they're playing, it's the lack of interest, lack of effort by many of the star players. The NBA ratings continue to do the downward dog. They are down 28%. NBA ratings have gone in the tank, down 28%. Hey, it's not my job. I don't work for the NBA. That's somebody else's problem, and they're claiming it's all because of pirating. It's all because of this, that, and the other thing. Well, okay, but that's not good. That's a bit of a problem, I would think. But what do I know?